Hello, welcome to another episode of the Deliverance Today Live. My name is Femi Akujenu. I'm your host for this episode of the Deliverance Today Live. In today's video, I want to share with you 10 things evil people do when they have access to your space. 10 things evil people do when they have access to your space. Of course, there are many more things they could do, but I want to share with you about 10 things that evil people do when they have access to your space. Now, this teaching that I'm doing, it's going to help you in overcoming the attacks that comes against you. There are attacks that come against you, and you need to know what I'm sharing with you to be able to overcome some of those attacks. Many times, when the enemy wants to strike, they look for access into your space. Whenever the enemy wants to strike, whether it's the devil himself, through demons, or the agents, human agents, they often look for access into your space. And unfortunately, because many people don't understand spiritual warfare, they actually give access to the wrong people. If there's anything you need to guard very carefully, it is your space. Don't allow just anyone to come into your space. Because if you give the wrong people access into your space, then you allow them to be able to do damage to you. So what I want to do is to share with you about 10 things that wrong people, evil people, negative people, diabolical people, people who practice witchcraft, people who are actually witches and wizards or warlocks, or people who are not those things, but they practice witchcraft, right? Those things that they can do to you if you give them access to your space. Let me also warn you that you need to be very careful who you give access to, right? There are ways to qualify people. And maybe I'll do another video on that, how to qualify people before you give them access, right? I'll do another video on that. But for tonight, or for this time, I want to share with you about 10 things they do when you give them access into your life. Let me quickly say this before I even get into the 10 things, right? These evil people I'm talking about, they could be people you call your friends. They could be family members. Some of them could even go to the same church as you. Some of them could be co-workers, right? There are people around you. Sometimes there are people that you have discussions with, people that you dine with, people that you work with, and you do other things, even worship with. And yet these people could be people you don't want to give access to into your space or in your life, right? You don't want them to have access to your space and to your life. Because if you give them access, they could do any of these 10 things that I'm talking about today. So let me share the 10 things with you. Number one, when evil people have access to your space, they take your picture. They look for your picture. Now, of course, we live in the days of social media where you don't even need access to the space of a person to get their picture. Oftentimes, you can get it in many people's Facebook pages or Instagram or other social media platforms, right? But one of the things these evil people look for when they want to come to your space is your picture. Because with your picture, they can use your picture as a point of contact to do some evil against you. So be very careful. It is not just anybody that you allow, right, access to your space. Some of them, they're looking for your picture. Number two, I'm sharing with you 10 things that they could do, these evil people, when they have access to your space. Now, sometimes when they have this access, you are there with them, right? They come inside your house and you are there in the house with them. Sometimes when they have this access to your space, you are not there. You just tell them, hey, feel free. It could be in your house. It could be in your place of business, some space that is yours. And you tell them, hey, feel free, help yourself, go to the kitchen if you need something and all that stuff. You are thinking that these are trustworthy people, But unfortunately, because they're evil people, it's not always the case that you know they're evil, right? So, and that's why I'm going to be doing how to qualify people for access into your space. But, sometimes you leave them in the house, you go your way. You may even leave them with your children in the house and you go your way, not knowing that these people, they have a malicious intention. All right, number two, when evil people have access to your space, one of the things they collect is your clothing. Your clothing. Now, let me at this point say, really, any personal item, right? They look for personal items. So that could be your clothing, that could be your shoe, and that could be anything else. They look for personal items, and they use those personal items to work their witchcraft. Sometimes they go to a psychic or they go to a root doctor, and the root doctor will tell them, you know what, bring this or bring that, collect this or collect that, right? And so they go and collect something. And what they collect, right, from your space is what they now take back to them and say, okay, use this to put a curse or hex, jinx, spell on you because you give them access to your space. All right, so I'm sharing with you 10 things. All right, so I've shared with you 2 things. Well, number 3, another thing they could do is they can pour something in your space. They can pour something in your space, whether it's a liquid they pour into your space or some sort of powder that they pour in your space, or they leave something right in your space. Now, I remember a pastor whose wife had a store selling clothes, children's clothes, and this competitor, jealous of them, jealous of the fact that they're doing well, wanted to close them down, shut them down. Didn't want them to be a competitor to him. So you know what this guy did? He came to their space. And because, this is a store, generally speaking, you're not going to be saying, okay, who's, trying to qualify who's coming to your store. So this guy just walked in, pretended like as if he was shopping in the store, and then eventually went to one corner in the store where there was nothing. There was no product, no clothes, no nothing, right? No items for sale there. He just went to that corner and he poured something in that corner. And after he did that, it didn't take too long before this store that was making a lot of money shut down. That guy poured something in that store so that that store will no longer attract customers. He did something diabolical, and he placed it by pouring something at the corner there. So what I'm saying to you is this: when the wrong people have access to your space, they may decide to pour something. It could be something liquid, it could be something powdery, but they pour something. I remember somebody who was working somewhere and wanted to hurt a co-worker, wanted to get that co-worker fired. And so they are both workers. They're all working in the same business, in the same company. But one wanted to get the other fired. And so the one who wanted to fire the other one put some sort of powdery thing on the floor. The intention was that the one she wants to get fired will walk on top of what she had poured on the floor. And once she walked on that, that's it for her. But unfortunately, it wasn't the one that she intended to hurt that ended up walking on the powder. It was somebody else, another co-worker. And so this evil person who poured the stuff on the floor started saying, oh my God, you walk on it, you walk on it. Oh my God, you walk on it. It was too late. And truth be told, that other co-worker who was not part of the plan actually got fired because of the wickedness that was. When the wrong people have access to your space, they can pour something into your space. Number 4, another thing that they could do is that they can invite spirits, evil spirits. Imagine that you allow the wrong person to sleep over at your house. And as a result, spirits start coming into your house that were not there before. I actually remember someone who told me it was their own family member who came over and slept over for a couple of days. And guess what? She said to me, she said, I started seeing spirits in the house, spirits that were not there before, until this child, it was even a child of this person, until the child came, an adult child, and spent a couple of nights in their house. Sometimes, some people intentionally will invite the spirits. Now, they themselves, they are evil, they are wicked. They come into your space, and then they will invite spirits, maybe through some sort of chanting and stuff like that. They invite the spirits. So be very careful who you are allowing into your space, because you may be bringing somebody who's going to invite evil spirits into your space. Number 5, the things they could do, these evil people who have access to your space, they can touch your children. They can touch your children. Now, this could be both in the natural and in the spiritual. In the natural, they can abuse your children. So be very careful who you are allowing into your space. But in the spiritual, they can also touch them. Touch them by, messing with their destiny, messing with the call and the purpose of God for those children's lives. They can lay hands on your children, and by that, transfer some sort of curse into their lives. They can mess with your children. Be very careful. It's just because it's convenient for somebody to just come and stay in the house where your children are, doesn't mean you should do that, because you don't know who those people are. You have to vet people before you bring them into your space. There are places we go to today, and they will not allow you in without checking you out. Yes, it's the same thing when it comes to spiritual matters and spiritual warfare. You go to certain buildings, they will pat you down. They will use those metal detectors. They want to make sure you are not carrying anything, and that you are not coming in here to carry out an evil intention or malicious thing, right? The same way, unfortunately, we don't think, many of us don't think this way. But before you bring somebody into your space, you need to, find out what could they be up to, what malicious intent could they have. Now, I'm not saying be scared. I'm not saying that's not the point. The point is that you can't just be relaxed either and just allow just anybody. There has to be some sort of criteria that you are using to qualify people for access. I'll be doing another video on that so that it can help you to know how to qualify people for access. All right? Number 6, another thing they could do when the wrong people come into your space is that they could put a curse on your space. They could put a curse on your space. Now, I talked about somebody pouring something in your space. Well, there are those who literally place a curse on your space. If it's a place of business, they can place a curse on that business. If it is a church, believe it or not, they can even place a curse on a church. Now, of course, if the church is a church where the fire of God is and the power of God is, that curse is not going to work. But there are those, who they have church, but they're prayerless and they're not, putting on the whole armor of God, and they may find themselves feeling the effect of that curse on their churches. So it is not everyone who have a good intention, coming to your space. Sometimes some people, they want to come so bad because they want to curse your space. So by cursing your space, it could mean that, there's no more prosperity in your space, no more fruitfulness connected to your space, which means those who live in the space, including you, may begin to notice that you are not as prosperous as you used to be before, because the wrong person came in and cursed your space, whether it's your house, your place of business, your ministry, any other place, right? They curse your space. So again, be careful about who you are bringing into your space. Another thing, number 7, that they could do is that they can put an evil veil on your space. They can put an evil veil on your space. Now, if you have not heard my teachings on evil veil, you can check it out on YouTube. But when there's an evil veil on you, they are basically covering you up. So if there's an evil veil on your space, that means that that space is covered up. So just imagine, you have a place of business, you have a store, you're selling some product or providing some services. Well, you need people to patronize you. You need people to come inside the store. But if there is an evil veil on your space, because somebody you gave access to came in there and put an evil veil on your space, then those who are to see your space, they will not see it. They will pass in front of your store and they will not see your store. They'll pass by, they will see nothing, right? Because they have put an evil veil on your store. All right, number eight. Number eight, another thing they could do is to bring some negativity into your space. Now, that's different. I'm separating that from a curse. So there are those who would actually curse you. They will pronounce something and curse you. But there are those who, they are not necessarily cursing you. They didn't come with the intention of placing a curse in your space. But they themselves, what they work with, the negativity they have on them and in them, without necessarily having an intention to hurt you. They themselves have no intention of hurting you. But what comes with them can hurt you. So, for example, there are some people, they carry such a heaviness on them. And every space they go into, that heaviness goes with them. If you are around them, you start to feel heavy and you wouldn't even understand why. Why am I so heavy here? Because they pass by your place. They slept or spent the night at your place. They have no evil intention. They didn't come to do evil to you. But the negativity they are carrying is like a residue of that. It's left over. And so if somebody ever come to your space and you feel like after they left, you start experiencing things you weren't experiencing before, you may want to pray now and say whatever negativity, even if they don't have any evil intention. Sometimes you know that they don't have any evil intention, but what's on them? It's like brought into your atmosphere. So you want to pray for that to be cleansed out. You want to plead the blood of Jesus Christ on your space and command that whatever negativity they brought with them, the depression that you didn't have before, because they came to your space, you began to feel depressed, like, what's going on here? Well, then you need to pray and command that to get out of your space in Jesus' name. Number 9, another thing evil people do is that sometimes they plant surveillance devices. They plant surveillance devices. Just like it can be done in the natural. There are people in the natural who do that, right? They can plant certain cameras or certain things, right? But I'm not focused on the natural in this teaching. I'm talking more of the spiritual. The same way, some wicked people, they can plant something so that now they can monitor you. Imagine if it's a family member who is jealous of you, a family member who is a witch or a wizard, a family member who practices witchcraft, can literally put something in your space as a way of monitoring you. So all of a sudden, you'll notice that even when they have left your space, they are always knowing what you're doing. How do you know what I'm doing? Now, they may not have a camera in the natural, but it's a spiritual camera. It could be in the form of a gift they gave you that is inside that house. It could be in the form of something they dropped or hid somewhere or poured somewhere. The whole intention is to monitor you. There are those who have those demonic abilities to do things like that, and you are now being monitored by the evil spirits and in connection with whatever they dropped into your space. Wow. The last one that they could do is that they can bring chaos into your space. So imagine you're a husband and wife, and the wrong person came into your space. All of a sudden, confusion that was never there before, you begin to have it. And you are wondering, what's going on? Why are we fighting like this? Have you considered the fact that it could be the person you brought into your space who brought the damage, who came to do the damage in your relationship, brought confusion between you and your children, and brought chaos. They created chaos in your space. Yes, there are people like that. They came. Before they came, you always had peace until they came with their chaos. I will never forget one lady who went to a church and she brought chaos into that church. She said, she herself confessed, and she said that, she brought chaos into the praise and worship team. Before she came, the praise and worship team, for years, they worked together in harmony and in unity. But guess what? This lady came. She was a witch, and they didn't know it. She joined the choir, and all of a sudden, the choir started fighting one another. She brought that. She brought that fight. She brought that confusion. She brought that chaos into their space. She did other things. That's for another time. But my point is this. Sometimes when the wrong people come into your space, they can bring confusion. They can bring chaos into your space. So you have to be very careful. In conclusion, be very careful who you are bringing into your space. That you work in the same job doesn't mean you should give them access to your space. That you went to the same school, especially people that you knew years ago. I always tell people, if you went to elementary school and you were best of friends in high school, but then 25 years has passed, you don't look at them the same way again. Say, but we were best of friends. Yes, that was then. What have they been doing in 25 years? What have they become exposed to in 25 years? Who do they worship now? Do they worship God? Do they worship Satan? Do they worship ancestors? What are they worshiping? So you don't just, oh my God, I just reconnected with my friend in high school 25 years later on Facebook, and then you now start inviting them to your space. My friend, you don't know them. You have to start asking a lot of questions. You have to treat them like they're stranger to you because you need to qualify them for access. Some of us, we get too excited and we bring the wrong people into our space. You say, well, I met them in church. There are many people that you can meet in church. It doesn't mean, number one, that they're worshiping God in church. And Jeremiah 5:26 says, among my people are found wicked men. Among my people are found wicked men. So don't make that mistake to think that because somebody is from church, automatically they should have access to your space. No. You need to know who is this, right? Many people have brought damage into their own life, and they have opened the door to Satan because they allow the wrong people into their space. I want to say to you, qualify people for access. Don't just bring just anybody, regardless of the hallelujahs they are saying from their mouth, regardless of the praise and worship that they are singing with you in church. Don't just conclude that, oh, it is safe to bring them in. No, there are ways to qualify people for access, right? So I hope you have learned a thing or two from this video. And if any of those things has been done to you, well, pray to cancel whatever they have done in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. I want to thank you for watching this video. Please go ahead and share this video with others. Share the link. Go ahead and comment. Let me know your thoughts on this video. And of course, subscribe to this channel if you are yet to do that. Again, I want to thank you for watching this video. Until next time, be watchful and qualify people for access. Don't just allow just anybody. Qualify them for access. Thank you very much.